We're honored to have Timm Muth here, who is the director of the Jackson County Green Energy Park in Dillsboro, North Carolina. If you have not been there yet, go. This place is incredible. The folks that run this place are incredible. They use, which he'll get into it, but they siphon off methane from a landfill. And it's cleaned up the water, it's cleaned up the air, and they use that in a really powerful way. So I'm not going to tell anymore. All right. Here's Timm.
Hey y'all, how's everybody doing today? Great. All right. I'm going to tell you up front, I'm not nearly as eloquent a speaker as JW is, and I'm not nearly as well prepared with my PowerPoint as Phil was. And Phil, this isn't even the right one.
Sorry, man.
That's all right.
Let's see, what do you have?
Don't ask him.
So while he's figuring that out, I don't need a mic anyway. A couple things up front. I'm really ADD. I get off topic a lot, so if I get too distracted or something, just don't hesitate to reel me back in. Throw any questions you've got at me. All right. There we go.
I think I got you set up right, so you should only have to
hit that one button.
Yeah, and watch out. This is a touch sensitive area.
Okay. Be ginger about it. Okay. I want to give you a real quick background on myself, and then that will feed into a background on GEP, and then we'll get rolling from there. Okay. Unlike probably everybody else here, I'm not a glass artist. I'm not really an artist at all. I write a lot, but I'm not really an artist. I'm an engineer by training, and I really kind of fell into this job. My training is electrical and nuclear, and I always wanted to do renewable work, but the year I graduated college was the year that Reagan took the solar panels down off the White House roof. And I said, well, not going to be very many renewable jobs handy, and I ended up going into nuke work, but I always wanted to get back to renewables. And I kind of gradually just sort of forced my career that way until I got working for the state, running a bunch of their renewable projects. And one of those projects happened to be the Energy Exchange. If you're familiar with that, it was the first landfill gas ARC project anywhere. That was out also in western North Carolina. And then I got really sick of being an engineer, and I gave it all up, and I moved out to the mountains to try my hand at something else, but they sort of sucked me back in. And they approached me one day and they said, Tim, we know you know a lot about energy. We got this little landfill. We don't know what to do with it. Can you take a look at it? So first it was make an assessment of the gas field, and I did that. And then it was like, okay, can you put in a gas collection system? It's like, yeah, we can do that. And it's like, okay, can you fix up this building? Yeah, I guess so. And then it's like, okay, can you build studios? Can you hire people? Can you have classes? Can you do festivals? And it's just, this is one thing after another, but what the hell, you're not going to get bored, right? So you got to learn how to do a lot of different things in life. And then when they came to me, they said, okay, well, we want you to use this gas somehow, and maybe you can do some craft studios. And I went up to Energy Exchange, and I saw what they were doing, and I knew it was possible, but I didn't know anything about kilns or forges or glass studios or anything like that. All I know about is energy. And then I got this call out of the blue one day from this wonderful lady named Tracy. And she said, hey, I want to come to Western Carolina University and work with you, because I heard what you're going to do there. I'm like, well, I don't even have a studio yet. She said, that's okay, I'll come help you. So Tracy showed up, being my first intern. She found John Nickerson, who was retiring as a glass blower. We went in, bought his shop out for probably 10 cents on a dollar, came back and just started cobbling stuff together. And within about a month after that, I think we were blowing glass. And just kind of took off from there. So at this point, we've got blacksmithing forges and a foundry, and our glass blowing studio. We've got torches as well that we're trying to run on landfill gas and oxygen. We just finished building a new salt kiln out back that we can run. So anyway, we just keep trying to add a bunch of different pieces in there. And I guess, and people say, well, why do I do this? It's because I have a great deal of respect for hardworking people. And when I saw the glass artists in particular come out, I thought to myself, I've never seen people work this hard before. You know? She's not here today, but Judy McManus is one of our artists, and Judy's probably close to retirement age. You know, she's out there for 6-7 hours straight, 2,000-degree heat like a lot of y'all are, and I know it will wilt most guys that I know. So I just have a great deal of respect, and but I realized that they can't do that work if they don't have somebody to keep the heat on. And that's what I'm good at. So this is my way of being able to give back to the community, even though I can't make anything that looks pretty like the rest of y'all. But it all works out. All right? So this is it. We're using renewables for a lot of high temperature applications. If you know this guy, it's Tadashi Tori. He learned to blow glass down here, right? He was with us for a couple of years. But as Phil was saying, primarily we're using methane from the old landfill. Works really well for us. What I'm hoping to be able to demonstrate for you all later today is our waste vegetable oil as well. Our kilns, we're using waste wood from when the county has to cut trees off lands on a cemetery or something like that. They got to pay to dispose of the trees, so now we get them to bring them to us instead. And now we just put in a little sawmill operation out there. So this guy that works with local kids that are troubled youth, he brings them out, teaches them soldering skills, because that still is a viable job out in our way. And then all the trimmings that come off of the wood, then we use for our kiln there. So it's just trying to use as many different resources as we can. Oh, and we just put in 2 little anaerobic digesters, just because, well, why not? You know, it's another way to make methane. I'm always trying to get the county to look at a big system. And when people aren't familiar with things like that, and you try talking to them, they look at you like you have 3 heads. So what I've done is build a little tiny one, and this spring I'll be able to bring them out and say, look, banana peels in here, flammable gas out here. What aren't you getting? You know? If I can show them that, then I think that we can start having that conversation about how do we put in a big one for our whole community. All right? And in fact, we built it right before the winter, and they need a certain temperature level to work. So all winter I just didn't worry about it, and we went out there the other day, and it built up so much pressure to pop one of the pipes and spewed cow poop everywhere. So it's time to get back on that. All right, that's our mission. Blah blah blah. Basically, we're there for economic development, environmental protection, and providing cool educational opportunities for people. In a nutshell, this is really what we're about. I like proving that sustainable energy is powerful. Right? Everybody always poo-pooed it. I mean, I come from the nuke industry, so they're always were down on renewables. Oh, there's not that much solar. Oh, it'll suck all the heat out of the sun. Oh, windmills kill birds. You know, all this stuff. And time and time again, they kept going back and saying, well, there's not enough energy there for you to do anything with. And in fact, when my county, Jackson County, they dropped 40 grand to bring an engineering company in to make an assessment of their gas field, what they told them was, you don't have enough gas to do anything with. You should just flare it off and don't worry about it. And when I came in, I looked at it, I said, you got plenty of gas. They said, well, why would they tell us that? I said, what they're saying is you don't have enough gas for them to make $1 million a year off of, so they don't want to play. I said, well, we'll figure it out, because I know how much energy you've got in this gas. We'll make stuff work. So the way I like to look at it as we're using a fuel to drive an economic engine. All right? I've also had a lot of artists come to me, especially glass artists, and they're really cognizant of the fact that you burn a boatload of propane, and you don't like that, right? It's hard to get around that kind of thing. So I want to be able to come up with solutions so you all can make beautiful work and feel good about it as well. All right? One thing I wanted to say too is this is something that's just kind of come to me over the years, but just recently it sort of distilled itself, is that people always keep coming up and saying, well, how did you figure out how to do that? And how did you know that was going to work? And my son asked me the other day, well, Dad, you know, how did you know that was going to work? I said, I didn't. I believed that it would. All right? And that's what I've come to figure out, is that there's only one thing that's necessary for change, and that's for somebody to believe hard enough that you can make that change. It may not work plan A or B or C. You know, we usually got 5 backup plans when we're trying stuff. I just always assume it's going to screw up the first time around. But we just keep hacking away at it, and it doesn't matter if other people tell us it won't work, right? We can just figure it out. This is what our facility looked like in 2005 when I first got there. We pulled over 500 tons of loose trash. This had been a trash transfer station. It was filled to the top with trash. I mean, just everything imaginable in there. It was pretty horrible. And my daughter went to my wife at one point, right afterwards, and she said, I don't want to tell Tim this and hurt his feelings, but I don't think anybody's ever going out to the dump to buy art. Okay, I got you. You got to have a little bit of vision, right? And I'm sorry I don't have a more up-to-date picture, but this was 4 or 5 years later, right? Building's looking good. We got a nice garden in there now. Those trees are 10, 15 feet tall. Sorry, I should have had that up there. That gives you an idea of, that's the same spot where it was a pile of trash when we started. Now it's all part of our gardens and everything like that. again, you just got to believe that it can happen. But when we got in there, we knew the concrete was good and the steel was good. I can build everything else. As far as the landfill goes, again, I had a lot of people come to me and say, oh, you're never going to get a decent amount of heat out of a landfill. Oh, it's always going to be weak. And I always ask them the same question. Really, if you tried it? And they were like, oh, I know. But I ran the numbers. I'm like, well, I don't care. You know, I'm ADD. I got to see it for myself. We got to try it. That was our top temperature in the glory hole a few months ago. Now, we don't normally run it that hot. It's just one of those deals. I get it set up, and then I'm wandering around doing stuff, and I walk back in. I'm like, oh, holy crap. You know, I turn it back down, or I look over, and one of the glass artists is wilting, and I realize, oh, maybe it's a little hot. I can dial it down for you. But we got 2 glory holes. I've got 3 forges, a foundry, and we've got torches, flame working torches as well that we're working on. In fact, this stuff gets so hot that we were doing a metal pour the other week, and I came walking in and looked over, and it said 2512, and I'm like, well, that's hotter than I need. And when I pulled the thermocouple out, you know those little ceramic sleeves that are on the thermocouple? They had melted. Now, I've seen the ceramic kind of fall apart before when it gets too hot. This is just dripped right off. I didn't even know it could do that, right? So the long and short of it is it really gets hot, and it's not that difficult to do, you know? We suck the gas out of the ground, we push it down the hill, we burn it at the other end. It's not a lot more complicated than that, honestly. Okay, so we got Glassblowing studios, you all know all about that. And we do a lot of private, public classes, and we also rent it out. And the nice thing for us is I don't have to charge for gas, right? So I can charge half of what a lot of studios do for time. Cole can tell you, Cole Johnson is one of our artists here. Julie's been there as well, and of course Tracy's been there. It's a great big space. And frankly, it's underutilized. So if you all want to come to the mountains, come see us.
That's beautiful.
What's that?
Beautiful location.
It is beautiful. I mean, it's God's country. Our blacksmithing studio, they're the only forges in the world that run on landfill gas. Why? Because nobody else bothered to try. That's all. It's the only thing I know, right? The fellow up in the upper corner, Brock Martin, he was my first blacksmithing intern. I should say I'm a county department, so I got this much budget, and I can't afford to pay people to help us. So with the interns, for every 2 hours they work, they earn an hour of shop time. And that has allowed several people to create careers for themselves. The lady in the back, this young man's been on Forged in Fire. He's a full-time blacksmith. This young man, Cole, just got back from 2 years at the jam factory in Australia based on the work he did. So it's a really great opportunity for these young people to be able to create careers for themselves. And that's just some of that axes that they made. They do a lot of medieval weaponry and things like that at our classes. They go over really well. Everybody, who wouldn't want a Viking axe, right? That's my daughter there in the corner. That's what she told me. Who wouldn't want a Viking axe, Tim? All right. Let's see. We've got a metal foundry as well. As far as I know, it's the only one, again, because nobody bothered to try. When we fire that thing up, it sounds like a jet engine going off. We are limited in our gas. If I'm running a foundry, I generally don't try to run anything else during the day. If I've got both glory holes running, I might only run one forge. You know, it's a limited amount of gas. To give you an idea of volume, you know, big landfills like you see in Florida and places like that, they might have 8,000 or 10,000 cubic feet of gas a minute. I have 40 cubic feet of gas a minute, right? Pay attention to that, because there's a lot of people out there say, oh, you don't have 500 CFM, you don't have 1,000 CFM, there's nothing you can do with that gas. I call bullshit. We do it on 40. A glory hole only pulls about 8, right? Our forges only pull like 5 CFM. So as long as you're creative about it, you can do a lot with a small amount of energy. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. I got tired of us not having a kiln because our budget didn't come through. So we got a little grant. We built this big wood kiln. And I always had it in the back of my mind. We wanted to run it on vegetable oil as well. So we started off with wood. Let's see if this little video will play. Okay, so that was our very first trial with it. We had gotten this, it's a Beckett burner. It's a modified furnace, oil furnace burner is all it is. We bought it from a place that modifies them, so if you want to burn oil in your shop, you know, you can. But they're only looking for 700-800 degrees, and I needed a couple of grand. So we took what they had, we started modifying it and tweaking it until we could hit the high heat. Here's a couple of things about veggie oil that people don't realize. You know, if you say how much energy is in a gallon of gasoline, you know it's a ton. It's the same amount of energy in a gallon of oil, right? 125,000 BTUs a gallon, gasoline's maybe 128,000, all right? Almost identical. The only issue is that gas turns into a vapor easily. That's what you light on fire is a vapor, right? Not the liquid. Veggie oil doesn't turn into a vapor easily, right? The other day we were out there burning. I looked down, I realized we're standing in a puddle of veggie oil. And somebody's like, oh my God, you might blow up. I take the torch and go, right? Nothing. It won't light on fire easily unless it's a vapor. So this system that we're using uses a high pressure airstream to atomize it, blows it out like a fog. When it does that, you can just light it up with a torch, and you'll see that later on this afternoon when we get going. The other nice thing is if if your dog comes over and laps some up, he's not going to die. You don't want him to drink too much, of course. But I also have people that dump it down the drains, and then it messes up either their septic tanks or the water treatment facility. They don't know what to do with it. And if you're a homeowner or you're a restaurant and you have 5 gallons of oil a week, the biodiesel people won't come take it from you, right? So we just give them a place to come give it to us for free. So it works out. They get rid of their oil. We have free fuel coming in. And so far we had hit, let's see, yeah, our one small kiln is 30 cubic feet. We brought that up to 2,300 degrees just with veggie oil. And the forge we're building right now is only about 2 cubic feet. We call it the glory forge because all it is a glory hole that I call a forge, right? So we're anxious to see when we get back what kind of temperatures we're going to hit there. I keep promising our smiths will hit forge temperatures, which is about 2,600. I think we're going to do $3 grand and blow his socks off. So when we first started using veggie oil, this was our method. Get it really hot, got a pump up paint sprayer, you open the door, spray it in, hope for the best, try to keep your eyebrows intact. It burned, but it put off so much black smoke that the fire department showed up in the middle of the night one day. So we know it wasn't burning very efficient. So then that's our first version down there, the Black Beast. And it burned okay. Not fantastic, but it did all right. This is our Mark II version. We just went to a STEM fair in a neighboring county. And what we did was we went in and made fried Oreos for the kids. And then we talked about how many calories are in a cup of oil, how many calories in an Oreo. And then explained to them a calorie is a measurement of energy, right? It's how much energy required to bring a cc of water up 1 degree Celsius. So then we equated that to their home furnace and say your furnace puts out this many BTUs, so many kilocalories of heat in a BTU. And then we take that same oil and we throw it in the veggie burner and we shoot a 6-foot flame out of it. So we get to go from fried Oreos to flamethrowers, and make that scientific connection along the way. That's something that the kids will never forget. We had to blow into the glory forge because what we found we were just blowing it out in free air. It's a little unstable, plus a cloud of vegetable oil would waft through the parking lot and land in everybody's cars, and they really got upset with us about it. So this time around we took this instead. And that fella down there on the corner is Phil when he came up to play with us. And let's see, I think I got a video.
This is Phil Vincent, blowing glass using veggie oil, glory hole.
A happy guy there. And I want to point out that let me back up a line. That hole that we're using here, that thing is solid, castable. It weighs like, I don't know, 1,000 pounds. It's crazy heavy. It's crazy thick. But we don't even use it anymore. I had it sitting down at the bottom, and still the veggie oil had us up and running in maybe an hour, 10 minutes, something like that. It's a ridiculous amount of heat. It really is. All right. Just real quick on I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. People always ask about the landfill gas. Again, we have about 40 cubic feet of gas a minute. And in terms of environmental benefits, we're burning 281 tons of methane. It's kind of hard to get your mind around a tonnage of gas, but I figured it out. It can cover a football field about 300 feet high. That's how much we're burning in a year. Give you a way to get your mind around it a little bit. So our CO2 offset is over 7,000 tons, right? And that's from a teeny tiny landfill like that. It's so small I can't really get carbon credits because, well, I could, but the carbon credits would be about $4,000 or $5,000 a year, but to calibrate your instrumentation costs about $6,000 or $7,000 a year, so it's a losing proposition for us. I don't know why, you know, sometimes you just get bad press and you don't know why. And I've got a local paper that, for whatever reason, about once a year has to bash us. And last year they came out and they said, well, you know, they don't really do anything good for the environment because they have this electric furnace. And even though they burn gas over here, they have this electric furnace. So I had to go through it and figure out our carbon footprint off the electric furnace is 73 tons of CO2 a year, but our CO2 equivalent is 7,000 tons. So we're almost doing 100 times, destroying 100 times more than what we're using for our electric use. I find sometimes it's valuable to have information like that to be able to throw back at them. That's just comments that people put out there. I do find that when you have renewable projects like this, it really captures people's interest. One thing I really like about both veggie oil and the landfill gas, how am I doing on time here?
You're fine.
I'm good? Okay.
Take all day.
Is that when you walk up to a solar panel, unless you got a meter in your hand, you just have to take somebody's word for it that it's producing electricity, right? I'm an engineer, I know how it works, and I trust that it is spitting out electrons there. But it's only so exciting to look at, unless you're really an energy person. You know, it's just hard to get that excited over a panel that sits there. When you come to our shop and you're standing on the other side of the room and one of these holes is belching heat out, you know, and what I always do is I got the kids lined up, they're maybe here to the wall over there, and I say, okay, hang on, and I whip the doors open and it's just, you know, and their hair's singeing and whatnot. It's pretty clear that there's something really significant going on. There's nobody can say, oh, I don't really think that's happening, and that's not that impressive. It's impossible not to be impressed with the amount of heat that we're getting out of that. And the fact that that was a waste gas that was going to poison our environment. I'm sorry, there was a couple things I missed, but like, you think about a landfill, there's all kinds of other nasty stuff in a landfill. There are old cans of paint, air conditioners, and old cars, and who knows what, right? And a lot of those really noxious chemicals, they got to get out of there. Our landfill happens to be a river at the bottom of the hill, which some knucklehead decided was a good idea. So any chemicals that are in that landfill, if they stay in there long enough, they're going to get into the water table, they move down into the river. And that river is a big economic driver for us. It's a big fishing spot, it's a big boating spot and everything like that. So what we've been able to categorize is that looking at the samples that we take quarterly, so we take some subsurface probe samples so we can look at methane movement and other contaminants that are in the water, and we could prove a direct correlation from when we first started pulling gas out, see a significant drop in methane migration and in these other chemicals. And every time we could bring on another piece of equipment and increase our gas use, you'd see these just huge drops again. So now people don't have to take my word for it. I can say, well, here's the graphs that somebody else gave us, you know, of our sample rates, and I matched that against our years of operation. You can just see it just drops off. Before we started, there were times when some of those probes were showing 80% methane, which methane's explosive at 5%, so that gives you an idea that's a really sketchy thing to have going on. And that's gas that's moving underground and coming up in people's basements and stuff like that. Now all of our methane probes are zero. Even a lot of the really carcinogenic chemicals, dichlorobenzene comes out of PVC pipe and stuff like that. Those have gone from like 6 times over the legal limit to now we're 60% under the legal limit. And the other thing is, just as a side that we didn't really even understand, I started looking at some of these noxious chemicals, especially the chlorine compounds. If you burn them at a lower temperature, which is what the initial engineering company told the county to do, just put up a flare, just burn that stuff off, nobody will care. Well, I found out, well, you burn that stuff off at those lower temperatures, 700 to 1,000 degrees, it can form dioxins. Dioxins are horrible, mutagenic, carcinogenic chemicals. It's really bad stuff, right? The way to prevent dioxin formation or to destroy dioxins, guess what? It's to burn it at ultra high temperatures with a lot of air, and a lot of turbulence, and you hold them in a combustion chamber for a while. Guess what? That's what a glory hole does. You know, like you couldn't design something better to destroy those chemicals than a glory hole. So, you know, we get to do something great for the environment, good for our artists, and we get to educate people at the same time. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around. All right? I don't know where I was supposed to go from here. I got so lost in my notes. But let me end on this, and I'll take a couple questions. I have time for questions? Is that cool?
Sure.
All right, so I have two problems with my place, is that we are out in the middle of the mountains. We're 15 minutes from the Cherokee Reservation. I mean, we are in the heart of the big woods out there. And nobody knows we're there. And nobody wants to drive out from Asheville because, oh my God, it's an hour's drive. So what I need is recognition. You know, I need people to come up and hang out with us for a while and blow glass and see what you think about it. You know, if you're swinging through, come in. I'll give you a day at the bench, no problem, no questions asked. All right. If you want to come up and stay a little while, or you need to get away from your studio, come talk to me. We'll make you a sweet deal. If any of you know Robert Birch from Carbondale, Colorado, he just finished up 2-3 weeks. Came out and made 120 glasses for the Mini Cooper Club that's coming through and stuff like that. You know, so if you need to get away from everything, you want to be in a beautiful location and work with some cool people, please come see us.